Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's your guy Cold Fire, and today I am bringing you a request from a subscriber who is asking me to react to Jim Reeves and Patsy Cline. Have you ever been lonely? And I am a big Patsy Cline fan, so I am glad to react to this song. Most definitely. I remember I was really young when my mother heard this on the radio. And I remember her saying they got a new Patsy Cline song out with Jim Reeves on it and everything. And this was before I actually started liking Patsy Cline. I believe that Coal Miner's Daughter had came out about that time, and that was when Patsy Cline got a brief cameo in Loretta Lynn's Coal Miner's Daughter, which sparked a a frenzy for people who had probably never heard of Patsy Cline, but watched Coal Miner's Daughter and had that cameo of actually Beverly D'Angelo actually singing Patsy Cline songs, and Sissy Spacek was singing Loretta Lynn songs, which they did great job in that movie. I briefly remember when it first came out, but as I got older, I appreciated it more. But I do remember the main part that stood out in the movie to me was the Patsy Cline part, because it was like, wow, this woman has class, this woman has sass, this woman has, something about her at such a young age that's whenever, back then you could go into a record store and buy LPs. And I remember I'm like, I've got to find this album about her. And back then you can get a record for like $2.99 an LP. 'Cause this was back in like 1980, I believe. But anyways, this song didn't come out, I think came out about that time, which piqued interest, because little did I know that a few years later they were going to be doing Sweet Dreams, because there was such an uproar of people wanting to know more about Patsy Cline. And all the movie did touch 90% on the facts of Patsy Cline. There was 10% of Hollywood that was thrown in there that was inaccurate. Being a big Patsy Cline fan growing up through the years, I read all the biographies that were out there, and I got to meet her husband and her daughter later on in life. And yeah, a lot of it was embellished. Hollywood likes to embellish biographies. Like with the Queen movie, they got some of the things that weren't exactly 100% accurate. They do it with a lot of artists to make their life a little bit more dramatic, especially for a country music star. But I felt that the movie Sweet Dreams, although it was a good movie, centered more on the relationship of her and her husband more than it did her music, in a way. As opposed to Loretta Lynn, where it did touch on the subject of their relationship, but it also touched more on the music and how she went through the industry and everything else. Because Loretta Lynn was alive to oversee that. Patsy Cline was not. So, anyways, enough talking. I'm going to get into this and react to this song. Yes, I have heard it before. Unfortunately, there is no video for it because they actually never sang this song together. This was like one of those first songs I think that they actually paired a couple with in country music, because both of them each recorded their own version, but they were so similar because they both had that pop edge. So they decided that they would use a engineering person and piece them together. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's do it. Okay. Make sure I got my volume on.
Have you ever been lonely? Have you ever been blue?
Have you ever loved someone
Just as I love you? Can't you see I'm sorry for each mistake I've made?
Can't you see I've changed, dear? Can't you see that I've played?
Be a little forgive me. Take me back in your heart.
How can I go on living now that we're apart? If you knew what I've been through, you would know why I ask you. Have you ever been lonely?
Have you ever been blue? Can't you see I'm sorry for each mistake I've made?
Can't you see I've changed, dear? Can't you see that I've played?
Be a little forgive me. Take me back in your heart.
How can I go on living now that we're apart? If you knew what I've been through, you would know why I ask you. Have you ever been lonely? Have you ever been blue?
Very well done. If you have the headphones on like I do, you can. Back then, you didn't notice it so much because of the technology, but with today's, remastering of songs and stuff like that, you can, if you listen real closely, you can hear how they kind of like have to slow Patsy down a little bit because she had that way up their voice. Gentleman Jim Reeves kind of like singing more that what do you call that, deep voice, but he was not known for yodeling, growling, or going too high up on notes like Patsy Cline did. So you could hear some of the transition if you listen really, really closely, how they had to kind of like pull his voice up to kind of like meet hers, and vice versa, tone hers down a little bit to not overshadow his, so they could complement each other. But the fact is, even though they were supposed to be the very first big, because both of them crossed over from country to pop because of the sound. They initially were going to make them a duet, and then later would become Tammy Wynette and George Jones, Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty, so on and so on. But after they heard Bobby Lord, whenever he done a couple appearances singing duets with Patsy Cline, they found out that that was a perfect coupling. But unfortunately, 6 months after agreeing to get them to do a duet album, Patsy Cline was tragically killed in a plane crash on March 5th, 1963, at the young age of 30 years old. And I almost believe that gentleman, Jim Reeves, I think that he also died in a plane crash, but I don't want to get my what I'm saying wrong, because I don't like to do that. Let's see. Let me see if it says it on here. Let's see. Okay. The most popular version of Have You Ever Been Lonely is an electronically created duet featuring country music singers Jim Reeves and Patsy Cline, who had both died in separate plane crashes. Cline in 1963, Reeves in 1964, and had never recorded together during their lifetimes. In 1961, both singers recorded their own solo versions of the song and released it to various albums. Here it is. In 1981, Owen Bradley, who was Cline's original producer, lifted their solo vocal performances of their original stereo tapes, synchronized them, and recorded a new backing track. The song was released in the fall of 1981, and in January 1982 became a number 5 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles charts, and number 1 hit on the RPM magazine country music charts. You know what? I've never looked at what RPM actually is. Maybe I should get that. Oh, okay. I learn new stuff every day here. RPM was a Canadian music industry publication that featured song and album charts for Canada. So, what they're saying is it went number 1 in Canada? That's something I didn't know. But anyways, that was Jim Reeves and Patsy Cline, Have You Ever Been Lonely? We never sang the song together, recorded it the same year, but in 1981, Owen Bradley electronically backed these tracks up and synced them together to create a top 5 hit for them and a number 1 in Canada for them. So, that's an incredible thing to hear. Well, I hope that you guys really enjoyed that reaction to Have You Ever Been Lonely, sang by Jim Reeves and Patsy Cline, although electronically synchronized together. If you were just blindly listening to it and not knowing that they had never sang the song together, would probably actually think that they recorded this song together. But there you have it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. I wish you love, peace, and happiness from the U.S. to wherever you are in the world. I love you on this channel, and you'll always be safe. And just remember to love everyone like you want to be loved. Bye-bye.